Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, there's so many all of a sudden, it's Arturo Zurita!
I'm excited to be here, Zach. The best part about working remotely is that I can be as sick as possible, and I don't even have to worry about giving you guys a virus. Other than me probably sending you a link, you opening it up on your computer and be like, yo, what the heck, Art? But, no. Yeah. I'm excited to be here. Talk some movies in Fantasia.
Yeah, excited to talk movies with you. Also joining us, she's a total punk rocker. It's Amandathejedi.
What is up? Thank you so much for having me again.
She's waiting for the sequel.
I didn't want to say the first half of that movie quote, but Amanda knows what I'm referencing. We're going to talk about the movie I was referencing and many other movies at Fantasia Fest later in this episode. We'll also talk a little bit about John Boyega. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio feed, which you can get on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media. We are at IntercutPod, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. It's at IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. Art, let's start the show the way we started every week here with what we are watching. What you been watching, buddy?
A lot. We'll get to the Fantasia stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that came out on VOD, that came out on different platforms and stuff, so I guess I'll just go from like A to Z. Amazon had a little movie from South by that's actually produced by Spider-Man himself, Tobey Maguire. I saw him there. He was like a foot away from me. He was literally a web sling away from me at South by. I didn't say hi to him or anything, but he had a pretty funny movie. It was titled Boys in the Wood when I saw it, but now it's titled Get Duked. It's over on Amazon. It's pretty much these like 4 delinquents who get sent out at what's supposed to be like their Boy Scout, but it's not necessarily Boy Scout. It's like Boy Scout for kids who are troublemakers. But then they run across something else that I won't spoil that ends up being not just them changing for the better, them changing just for survival. They just need to survive it while they're out there. Interesting calling it Get Duked. I like the original title. That's what drew me to go see it at the midnight premiere at South by. But I think it's still doing pretty well. I know Zach was telling me that the boys are getting even more like coverage. They're in some other stuff too.
Nice.
Yeah, they're starring in the latest Run the Jewels music video, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty big.
I think it's a way to help promote the movie as well, but you can kind of see their chemistry in that. It seems like a fun sort of coming-of-age story. Is there anything you would compare it to? Like, does it have a little bit of, like, Kings of Summer vibes, or is it maybe darker than one of those?
It's a lot more like the banter. I wouldn't know exactly what to, like, I guess, like, the degradingness of Superbad, except you need subtitles because of the accent they may have. That was, like, the biggest issue that I had in my midnight screening, so rewatching it, I was like, I still don't know what that word means, but now I know the word you were saying, though. That would have been the only thing with some of the accents on the kids, but, no, I think it's relatively easy to follow. I like the editing. I like the aesthetics of it, because it's like a combination of a lot of things where, again, the dialogue is very Superbad-ish, whereas it's cut and more, I don't want to call it Wes Anderson-y, but the way that they kind of like frame the shots when they're out in the woods is very Moonrise Kingdom, how they're trying to get like from point A to point B. And then it's none of those because it's the director's own style. So it's a very interesting perspective. So I'm very curious to see any of the follow-ups that they do with him. I'm glad it got a release because there's a lot of South by movies from that year that did not get a release, and I'm glad this one got picked up. But yeah, that'd be a pretty decent one if you guys were checking out anything on Amazon. On the Voodoo side of things, I think maybe you guys might have seen this one. Bill and Ted are back. And if there's ever been a duo that defines like a generation, and they go back and they get historical figures from other generations, I always laugh at the fact that Bill and Ted are supposed to be the historical figures from the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like in the context of the movie, if someone was traveling back to them, which they do here, they are technically the pivotal figures here. I don't know if you guys caught this one, but I went back and saw the trilogy again, and still holds up.
It does.
You saw all 3 recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen the latest one. How does the new one stack up to the last 2?
Nothing's ever going to compare to the first, in my opinion. Yeah. It's been interesting to see how many people fight for the second. You know, you gotta give it a little bit of time, and then people be like, "Is it safe to come out?" I prefer the second one. The Bogus one is better, and it is interesting going back. I didn't like the second one, but the second one has Death. Right. And he's brought back, so it kind of gets the best. The third one gets the best of the first, and the best aspects of the second, and brings it together for like a more modern retelling, where they're just now old and they need to deal with the fact they need to face the music to a degree.
Yeah.
But I found it funny because they're doing two things. They're addressing the fact that they have an issue, and that's that they're married, but they're never apart because they want to be together. They're like the Netflix one with the friendships and the book with Joey King, where they have a very unhealthy relationship with each other.
Yeah.
The kissing booth. That is them.
Kissing booth. Yeah.
Except they're married. They're not dating. They are fully married, and they don't know how to separate the fact that they don't know how to do things as couples on their own. They need to do it as couples together. Yeah. And then you also have their daughters who come in who do, I think they do a pretty decent job of playing a version of their fathers. And I don't know if they're going to do a spin-off with them or not, but what's her name from Bob's Burgers? She does the voice for Bob's Burgers, and she's also been
Kristen Schaal.
She plays Rufus's daughter, bro, Carlin's daughter, and I thought she killed it. So there's a lot of that going on of like predecessors coming in to take the mantle of Bill and Ted, or the time traveling Rufus. But it was cute. It did the job it needed to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree.
Amanda, did you also catch the latest of the three?
I did, yeah. I agree with him. I think it's one of those things that it'll never live up to what the original was, but I don't think it tried too hard either. I think it did try to like just establish itself as what it is. I just like most things with Samara Weaving in them. Like she's just a delight, you know. No, I think they did a good job with it. And yeah, that point about like kissing booth definitely makes sense because it's like her and her friend. It's like they almost can't.
Unhealthy.
And then when one tries to like pull away, the other one's like, no.
Go with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Codependence.
Codependence, like absolute codependence.
Yeah. All right, so Bill and Ted Face the Music. It's the approval. I haven't seen that one yet though. Art, what else have you caught recently?
I don't know if I had one from Netflix, but I ended up catching another one, My Chemical Hearts, which was another young adult adaptation. It's depressing. Like at this point, every single young adult thing just, we used to say it's a young adult adaptation. And then ever since A Walk to Remember, it's like, but is it the one where they die? Yeah, is it the sad one? Is it the one where they die? Because I'm only here for the one where a kid dies.
Death romance? Yeah, it's a teen death romance trope. I had like anytime I talk about like YA movies, I have an entire separate section. So like, and teen death romance.
It is. It's an entire separate section. I feel like when they go to the pitching meetings, they're like, all right, I just got to know if a teen dies or not because we're dealing with a completely different. Is this the cheating one or is it the dying one? Pick. Yeah, but I caught this one, and Netflix also has All the Bright Places that came out recently that I know a lot of people enjoy. I'm not sure what Hulu's is right now. I don't know which one Hulu has, but Amazon has My Chemical Hearts. I thought the acting was okay. Some of the scenes I felt came off a little too corny. I get the sentiment of the scenes, and I was like, I see what you're living in. Let's gain this foot apart. Even though we're supposed to be 6 feet apart, I'm going to take a foot for myself. In 5 feet apart, I get the sentiment, but that's still so corny. And that's the one through line that a lot of these YA novels adaptations have, is that from My Chemical Hearts to All the Bright Places to 5 feet apart, they try to do something that they think is like very motivational and very like profound in love. And it just takes like a year for the 6 feet apart one to be like, actually, we're now living in a world where we need that foot.
Yeah, we need that foot.
And they need it too. They didn't need a year in the movie. They needed it in 45 minutes into it. You realize that was not a smart move to make.
That was not a smart move.
But yeah, if there's one thing I could say is that with Amazon picking this up and it going straight there, with All the Bright Places going straight to Netflix, at least you don't have to go to the theaters. You could cry and be at home and live with these movies, which I honestly feel is the best way to watch some of these. So I'm not hating on them. It's an interesting trend.
Every service needs their own Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah, I need one that goes a little bit farther. I found Hulu's. It's called Baby Teeth. One of the best of the year. That's what it was. That's why I couldn't connect it, because it was a little different. Hulu's got the best one. It's called Baby Teeth.
It's Baby Teeth.
Coming out. I think comes out in September. So, but yeah, those are some of the ones I watched. What did you guys catch?
Amanda?
So obviously a bunch of stuff from Fantasia Fest, but I think where I might veer from you guys, I'm in an area where there is no cases. There are, in the entire province, at the time of seeing it, there were 4, but they were all people that were already quarantining because they were coming in from another area to do work. So they were already away from people, so they couldn't spread it. So I rocked up to my
What prize did you get?
Amanda got to enjoy the benefits of a functioning
what
society and healthcare
Please
system.
tell me the benefits of New Mutants.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. By the time it was done, I was mostly annoyed that I had even been able to do this. But yeah, I ended up seeing Tenet and New Mutants in a theater, socially distanced with my mask, because even you just don't know, hand sanny. Both left to be desired. New Mutants, I blame myself. I had gone full circle with that movie because first I was like, this is gonna suck. Like, this is not gonna be good. And then it just every delay, and then like the last trailer that came out, I was like, I'm on board again. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be like so at least something. It was nothing. It's I know there was like a bunch of stuff potentially behind the scenes where they had shot it to be way more just a coming of age story, and then they amped up the horror for the trailer because of how well it was doing and things like that. And then they were like, well, shit, now we have to go back to the drawing board and try to make it more horror. And there were like talks of reshoots, but then that was the same time the Fox Disney buyout was going on. By the time that was settled, it's been 3 years. These teenagers have aged now.
Ridiculous.
But
it's been through more behind the scenes drama than just about any recent release you can think of.
And then more came out right after it released, but it was just a mess. It's like they never blended the horror with the coming of age. They also didn't establish enough in the beginning for me to give a shit about anyone. Okay, you guys know I love my representation. I simp for the representation. They gave that to me and I didn't care because they hadn't established any of the characters yet.
You wanted a warm meal. And as much as they gave you that meal, they gave it to you cold.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And I got to sit there with it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
who was it? What character?
Awkward.
Like, what character? Because I heard that it was a fantastic cast. And I
Maisie
feel like
Williams
I've seen the movie.
And the girl who plays Danny.
Everyone was so looking forward to them, and then I'm seeing all these clips from like the leaks that are coming out online, just people compiling racist quotes from the movie.
Yes. Oh my god, that was the other thing.
I don't even see race.
By the
puts
end,
in 20 racist lines
yeah,
into
I know.
the film.
No, by the end of the movie, I had almost forgot that it happened until I went back to look at my notes because like stuff happens just so in quick succession, and then I went back, and it's like, why would a teenager from Russia have like an arsenal of Native American racist jokes in her back pocket to just throw at this poor person? Like, where did that come from? Also, like, Magic's just never been like that. If you want to make her kind of like the antagonistic like bully character in this horrible situation, sure, make her the antagonistic bully that's pushing people away because of her own issues. If you want to do that, whatever. You don't need to make her racist. Like, she walks into a room, like Danny walks into a room and she's like, oh, we're having buffalo wings. Do you want some buffalo wings? Because I hear your people love buffalo. I'm like, what?
Just so you know, it's not the racist comments. They just weren't funny. That's what really offends. It's like y'all weren't even trying there.
No, like they were bad, like Little Rock jokes and just random like things like that.
It's random.
Like stuff that like the average person who's from North America wouldn't have even thought of because of our shitty education system. But anyways, it's
offensive because it's racist, but it's also really offensive because it's very dumb.
It is.
Just very dumb.
That's what ticked people off the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any redeeming factors?
No. Like, there's moments, like I said, that's the worst part. Ileana later on, I guess some people were like, no, she was horrible the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, she's got a horrible fake Russian accent. Those always suck. But like, I don't know, she's cool. She gets the glowy eyes and the arm sword, and she's like a badass. Like, there's a couple of moments, but like, no, like this is it's a bad story. It's loosely tied into Logan, like in one little spot. I think this actually would have done really well as a miniseries.
You know, he pitched it as a trilogy. Like, my man grabbed all of the... I ain't gonna call him my man. I'm not gonna call him my man. The dude grabbed a bunch of comics and he put it together. Yeah. He submitted it, right? It's like right after he had done Fault in Our Stars, which you would have thought he did one YA novel. His horror movies got worse than dialogue than the YA.
Well, it's like, I don't think they wanted it to be so much of a... Like, it is, because like New Mutants does have like a horror vibe a lot of the times, but...
Horror
I don't know.
I heard some people say like the pitch is basically... John Carpenter meets John Hughes, and as intriguing as that does sound,
they don't blend
it also sounds like it could be just like such a misshapen, like non-cohesive mess of a movie.
It's like
it feels like what we got.
It is. It's just jumping one second to the next. It's all like horror, like coming of age. It never blends together. They also don't establish the characters. That's obviously going to be the biggest issue. And then on top of that, there's the new race issues where, like, yes, he was like, I needed to make sure that Danny was actually Native American. I wanted to make sure I cast Brazilian actors for Dr. Reyes and BeirDO. But BeirDO, historically, especially in the original comic books, and every once in a while they will lighten him for different takes, but historically BeirDO is Afro-Brazilian, and his race, that's a huge issue. And I don't know if Josh Boone just misspoke worse than anybody could possibly have misspoke when he said, I don't care about the race issues because that's not what I was going for in the story. But the way he said it makes it sound like I don't give a shit about the racism. I cast a Brazilian actor. I just wanted someone who could look rich, which, whether he meant it or not, made it sound like I don't think an Afro-Brazilian could look rich.
You know, what this man said was, and I think poor kids can be just as smart as white kids. I was like, Josh Boone really said that?
Yeah, and if Josh Boone misspoke, he's been misspeaking a lot, because he even said some weird stuff about masks and how theaters are safe. And
oh my God, the way that he's been trying to defend going to theaters, I'm like, dude, stop.
I got a clip of this man. He was, I don't know who he was doing the press junket for, and he was just like, just put on a mask. Go to the theater. What else do you got to do? I was like, homie, your movie ain't that good.
No, it's not. Honestly, this isn't even necessarily like a pay $5 to watch it at home movie. This is like maybe when it hits like in Disney Plus in 2 months, maybe.
HBO Max.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of catching it on the drive-in where it's out right now. But a lot of people have been saying it's like, no critics. They got no screeners. Tenet even went as far as trying to host multiple screenings with like 5 critics in each one. They did something. New Mutants said no. They did not care at all. They dumped it. They know the pandemic.
Yeah,
and
Disney has no real relationship to this movie.
I think it was like a contractual obligation to put
there's
it in
still theaters. So thank you. It's literally in the contract, so that's the only reason they're pooping it out. But they're still lying about it being like, oh, maybe the characters will stay as a trilogy. No, we're not retconning him. Stop lying. Just get over with. You couldn't even put the
My favorite thing though is Maisie Williams retweeting that review, calling
the worst
panning the movie.
Yeah, the worst X-Men movie ever. Wow, guys, sounds great. Get your tickets today.
Maisie's funny though.
She's funny.
Maisie's hilarious.
Really funny. Yeah.
All right, so Josh Boone let you down.
He did.
How about Christopher Nolan? How did he let you down?
Let me down. It's like, okay, every time I say things about like things being incomprehensible, people think I'm talking about the plot. I'm talking about the sound mixing literally being like,
we've been saying this. I'm glad that the Nolan fans are now going, all right.
It's like Dark Knight Rises on, but this is the worst one. This is the worst one. Like, oh my God, like there's entire sections where I've never wanted subtitles in a movie more in my life, except maybe the first time I saw The Lighthouse. And even that, once I got into the dialect, I was like, okay, I'm good. This is like, you can't deal with that. It was a mess. So like big idea-wise, sure.
I saw somebody on Twitter say that Christopher Nolan has an undiagnosed hearing problem, which just makes so much sense to me.
Did you hear what the composer said? I don't know if it was the composer or the mixer. He came out. He came out with that same energy that the Game of Thrones cinematographer came out after the battle episode. He was just like, y'all just don't get it. Nolan's not going for clearness. He is going for an experience. And sometimes in an experience, I mean, you've seen the movie, Amanda. I guess your eardrums, you don't need to hear the dialogue or whatever else. I don't know. I think really what he was just saying was, we made it so you have to watch it twice, so please go watch it in theaters again.
Yeah. No, it was like big idea-wise, I really liked it, but there's so much going on that like so much of the dialogue is exposition, which just rarely makes for a satisfying viewing experience for a movie.
I've seen clips. It's atrocious just how much he tells you. This is what was happening.
And then bad acting a little bit. Like, I don't know what it is. It's so weird. Like, everyone's all like Kenneth Branagh, like, no one's ever seen that he's in. And I'm like, he does, but at the same time, he also doesn't. He's like this typical, like, I'm the big Russian bad. If I can't have you, no one can. I'm like, it's so bad. Like, there's like a couple parts with him where I'm like, I'm totally brought out of the movie because it's not believable to me. It's not immersive. It was, it's just.
You're seeing him in the Murder on the Orient Express with his mustache acting the same way, but in a Nolan film. Did you find it? Go ahead. What's up?
No, I'm like, actually, though. Like, that's what it's like.
Is it worth seeing in theaters, even with the dialogue stuff?
right now
safe
I cannot.
I know, but like safe
saying
environment.
like a perfect world.
Is it worth like that's where it needs to be seen? Is in theaters. The IMAX live up to it at least, even if the audio.
We
doesn't
don't have IMAX here, so I can't.
Oh,
so
okay,
like
never mind.
honestly, I don't even have like the prime viewing experience. Like maybe in an
unless
IMAX
you review
setting.
it in 70 millimeter, Amanda, I can't have you reviewing the movie.
Yeah, well, I haven't talked about it. That's why. No, I guess like if you're a Nolan fan, you should see it. But I know that this is just gonna start like a swarm of people being like, the people who don't like it just weren't smart enough. And it's like, no, it's not an intelligence thing. Like I followed the thread. There's parts of it I really liked. Pattison was actually really good in it.
That's good.
Washington was good as well. It's just like a lot of him, he's bogged down by like questionable dialogue choices a lot of the time.
Okay.
It's not incomprehensible in the way that people think when you say something is incomprehensible. It is just literally, it's a mess and not like a beautiful mess. It's just like,
I'm excited.
Like maybe if I'll catch it a second time, I'll be like, "Ooh, no, I was so wrong. This is amazing."
I'm gonna go in with my Bane mask. I'm gonna sit there in the IMAX for 3.5 hours.
Nolan does make a lot of movies that reward you for viewing it more than once, but I think the thing that separates what I'm hearing about Tenet from what I've heard and felt about his previous films is usually they're much more enjoyable on the first run through, right? Like you gotta at least want to go back for a second time in order to enjoy it that second time.
Yeah, my issues aren't things that would get better with repeat viewings. Like me watching it again is not suddenly gonna make a Russian villain saying, "If I can't have you, no one can" sound better, or just really bad like, "Oh yeah, and my this," and I'm like, no, it's that you can't fix that. That's always there.
What if you saw it in reverse? Sorry. Inverse. All of a sudden his performance clicks. You know who Nolan is becoming? He's becoming Eminem. Eminem's trying to get so technical that you're forgetting that, can I just enjoy this song? It just looks better on paper, and I think Nolan is doing a lot of things that look better on paper and are like very technical. Like, look at this, every single piece fits in together. It's like, yeah, but you're stripping away the humanity of your characters.
Yeah, that's why I was like, big idea wise, it's great. Like, it's a really interesting concept. This is another thing that probably would have done better as a mini series where you could like build some allure and mystery in the beginning, and then you like don't even really introduce that what this inversion thing is until like the third episode of like a 7-episode series or something, or like this,
instead of a 3-hour caper. Yeah. No, I feel you. I want to do something different. Like, I love IMAX and all that stuff, but I feel like, I don't know if that's what's also, I know some people saying that the IMAX cameras, they are really loud. They're like mortars. So I don't know if like that's causing a lot of the dialogue issues because he has to go back and re-record a lot of it.
But sometimes when you can't hear the audio, it's when they're wearing a mask and you can tell like maybe the person isn't talking. So they've probably done voiceovers
ADR,
for the moments where they're wearing. So then just make it louder.
I don't know,
I don't know.
I get the environment thing, but it's like I could hear Fincher movies, and I know he goes deep into the environment.
Yes,
so I don't see the viewer experience having to be disabled to a degree.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm still curious to check it out, even though my expectations have been somewhat tempered by not just Amanda's reaction. I think the general reaction hasn't been quite as strong as it's been to other Nolan films in the past. I don't know if I'm going to do what I've seen some fellow New York residents doing, renting out a theater in Connecticut for $150 and seeing it.
They're letting you do that? We could rent a theater for $199, but we're not allowed to see
Cinemark
Tenet.
in Connecticut.
Not allowed to see
Damn, that's fun.
Wait, really?
We can't pick Tenet. It's got to be like Back to the Future or something. I love though how you need to travel the running time of Tenet plus to go see Tenet.
To go see Tenet.
Oh,
it's just part of the experience.
Part of the experience. How Nolan intended.
Yeah, I think lower expectations will probably help you enjoy it more though. Like rather than going and being like, this is going to be the best spectacle of the year.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you, Zach? Or Amanda? Have you caught anything else?
No, other than that, it's just been like some rewatches. Like I'm rewatching I'm Not Okay With This because I'm working on a video for that because it just got canceled. So I figured
Rest
why
in
not?
peace. Yo, I didn't like the show, but I felt bad, and I know you had it on your top. Hey, I never look for a show getting canceled. That sucks. Finish the story. Yeah.
As for what I've been watching, I May Destroy You on HBO finished its American run. It's finished up in England a little while ago. And it ended with this really enigmatic and powerful finale that it kind of felt like both the character and the show sort of trying to come to terms with how to wrap up this story. And at first it feels like a very like incongruous to the rest of the series development, just because it gets into these weird bits of fantasy and like subverting your expectations and just things that are not as fully realistic as the rest of the show has been, but it ends up being this really satisfying conclusion to the story, which I don't know how you conclude a story like that, one that delves into both sexual assault and just like life and the ups and downs of going through stuff quite as vividly and emotionally as that show has. I think it's still just, for me, the standout of the TV shows I've seen this year in the way that it portrays people as multifaceted and issues as nuance. It's not really black and white in its approach, but I'm blown away by Michaela Cole's performance. I'm blown away by her writing. It's such a powerful show, and one that I've eager to revisit again, because I don't know, like I was saying, it's hard to put a final note, a grace note on that kind of story, but I think somehow she's done it in a way that makes it feel complete, but also it doesn't feel like they're ending in a very traditional way. Like it's kind of like a life goes on way. And I've loved the show from start to finish. I hope more people get to catch up with it.
Yeah, I haven't finished it yet.
Is it a miniseries?
I'm fairly sure they're not going to do more.
It's on Letterboxd, right?
It does. I don't know if it's on Letterboxd. I don't know if it passes that test. Okay. It feels like they're not going to do more, because I also don't know how much more story you could tell. It is such a finale.
Okay.
Even though it's not like a traditional wrap up.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm hoping I can get to talk about it more with you guys when you get a chance to catch up on the show.
I'm gonna wrap up on it.
Yeah.
Definitely worth watching, and I want to talk more about it. I also need to talk more about I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the latest film from the visionary director Charlie Kaufman, the man who wrote one of my favorite films, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, wrote Adaptation. He directed Anomalisa. He's done a lot of really mind-blowing, medium expanding type of material. One of my favorite things about him is that you really don't know what to expect. He has a way of subverting so many forms through his work, and this is definitely an inheritor to that legacy of not knowing what to expect next. It is easily the most baffling movie of his that I've seen, in that like I still don't really know everything that it's about or how I felt about it, other than disoriented through much of it and compelled to. It's got what's the main actress's name? I'm forgetting Jessie Buckley.
She did a fantastic job in Beast. If you haven't seen it, she killed it in the Wild Rose movie, I think, as well. Kills it here.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely amazing in this performance alongside Jesse Plemons, who's another very like underrated actor, kind of getting a little bit of moment of the shun right now. They're both so good in this twisty, turny movie in which it's one of those movies where someone will go from one room to another and then walk into an entirely different scene. Or sometimes even like in a glance, they'll change their entire perspective or their accent or why is that coat suddenly a different color?
That was
and
it for me.
It's the way that the rug is constantly pulled from out under you in this movie that is both what's remarkable and puzzling and confounding about the movie. So like, am I going to say that I enjoyed my entire experience of it? No. I liked a lot about it. I really was intrigued by it, and it has me curious to check out more. But like, I don't even really know what my opinion is of it.
Same. And I'm sitting with the book, like I was telling you guys. I know you said you were going to read it as well. On a first watch, I don't love it as much as the previous movie, including Anomalisa. And Anomalisa I thought was very depressing. But it's a puzzle piece. That was the first thing Zach told me. Zach told me two things. He's like, it's a puzzle piece. And I started seeing it there. And the second thing he told me was, it's dark. And I go,
it's really dark.
You don't say.
You don't say.
And then literally
I had to turn the brightness up.
It literally got so dark on the screen, I had to like change the settings and stuff. I had no idea what was happening.
No, you guys just don't understand.
Well, I actually do now because I went back, and one of the big reasons for it was because the author. Where does the movie take place? Because the book takes place in Canada.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but
I don't know if they say specifically. I thought it was Canada.
Okay. One of the things that they do, or that the author had without like really getting into spoilers, was just that aesthetic, the idea of being out driving past everything where there are no lights and it's just you, and how dark things get. If I'm not mistaken, that's the cover of the book. And that's where you spent, like, I would say 2 of the biggest scenes. A part at the beginning, then you have your whole moment in the middle. Then you have like a part towards the end in that third act, where a lot of it is the dialogue that they're having in the car with each other in pitch black darkness. I don't mind it. We've seen a lot of movies this year, from First Cow, where they shot it to be really, really dark. I'm not as angsty as the cinematographer from Game of Thrones, but I do appreciate the cinematography he did on that scene.
Yeah,
but it is going to be very dark depending on what screen you see it in. I know it's going to come out in theaters, and if you go to like an ArcLight, I know that they will have it tuned to exactly how it should be. But yeah, you're going to have to mess with your settings on there, but it's worth it. It like Zach said, it keeps you on it. You don't passively watch a Kaufman film. You can't.
No, you can't.
No, like every little line could mean something. And
you're missing something,
new direction changes things in a way that like you need to put it all together. And like I'll admit that my one watch of it wasn't enough. It's enough that I do want to recommend it to people who sound intrigued by it. Definitely not everybody. It's not one that I'm going to recommend to my parents. But he makes such interesting choices and brings you to such interesting places, and some of the dialogue is just so cutting and precise. He is such a good writer, and the movie is so writerly that I'm eager to check it out again and read up and read that book like we've been talking about, and hopefully revisit it with some new eyes.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching it tonight. For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bring a flashlight.
We'll have to find out what you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know what you think about I'm Thinking of Ending Things, or anything else that you've been watching, in the comments below on YouTube, or by shooting us an email. The address for that is intercutpod@gmail.com. We are going to move on to Yay or Nay, where we break down the latest happenings in entertainment. Warner Bros. And DC held a virtual convention, DC Fandome, recently, revealing new trailers for several upcoming projects, as well as hosting panels and other events all online. Some of the most buzzed about moments included James Gunn's The Suicide Squad's character trailer, a new extensive Wonder Woman 1984 trailer, and a new Snyder Cut Justice League trailer set to Hallelujah. But Art, yay or nay, the thing you were most excited about was the trailer for Matt Reeves' The Batman.
So good.
I mean, it's the one I watched the most.
Dude, when he starts punching that dude.
When he starts punching that dude, I was like, that's nice. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I like the way that they're going with
the violence
with the Riddler. And mind you, I'll say this now because I know there's gonna be a lot of people. Batman can do whatever he wants. He's a crazy guy. Like I always tell these people, it's like, no, he's got this vigilante. I was like, he's a dude who dresses up in tights, bro. Like, do you even understand the psychology of what's going on with this man? He throws people. He kills a bunch of people. Like, I like seeing the action side of it, but what I've been really, really wanting to see is the detective side of Batman. Now we got the Riddler, and I'm loving how the Riddler looks. He looks when Ledger did Joker the first time, it was such a different Joker look. Like we forget now that it's part of pop culture that there was that moment before the movie came out, where everyone was dissing it. They were like, this looks dumb.
Yeah. And then like when he
revolutionized everything.
Yeah, and when he sadly passed away, people were like, it's only going to get hype because he's dead now. But it's like, no, that was like a genuinely really great performance.
And every superhero movie, every movie that needs to recreate the comic or book counterpart, we're like, let's skin it back a little bit and have it be as raw as The Dark Knight did it. So now you have a Riddler who isn't even in green, really. I hope that they really take that to like its full limits. I really hope it becomes a mystery. A lot of people are saying it looks like Seven. All right,
hell yeah.
Give me a superhero 7. But what are your thoughts on the fact that they put so much makeup on our boy Colin Farrell that they might as well have just cast Richard Kind, because that's all I saw.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sorry, but that's Richard Kind.
Yeah, I
like
know.
you're gonna have to convince me that that's Colin Farrell.
I love
Yeah.
Colin Farrell though.
Yeah,
Put
me
as much
too. He's
makeup
great.
as you want on him.
He wants his Bale moment.
Honestly, they should go back and put more makeup on Johnny Depp so you could just bring back Colin Farrell for the
Yeah.
Beast movies, which
Exactly.
if they're even
We're not-
doing those anymore. But yeah,
I'm done with those.
Yeah.
but yeah, what else did you guys think about that? Or
Yeah, Amanda, was Batman also the most exciting
Absolutely.
reveal from Fandome?
I'm super excited. I'm very interested to see Gunn's Suicide Squad because I really do like what James Gunn does with the comic book characters, and he does really care about what he puts to screen, especially with different
I think so, too.
characteristics and characters. I think he really cares.
Yeah.
Didn't end up watching the Wonder Woman one because like it's coming out so soon that I just didn't care to ruin it, spoil it. And I get that Hallelujah has a personal meaning for Zack Snyder, but that doesn't mean I can't clown on it for being a bad choice for that trailer.
It was a bad choice.
It was bad. It was
not
almost
cut.
as bad as when he has people have sex to Hallelujah in Watchmen.
Yeah, I mean,
That is right.
not just that he chose it, that he continues to choose this. I mean, like, Rathy's banana phone has significance to my life, and I'm not going to score my movie trailer to that.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sorry.
reminds me of those like old
ring,
like
ring,
early
ring, banana phone. What?
Yeah, I liked it when I was young.
Exactly. No, but it
Watching
reminds
a
me of those
copyright
like
claim for even singing it.
it reminds me of those like early 2000s like FMV AMV videos that they used to have on YouTube
Yes.
where it'd be like
Yes.
anime or Twilight to Linkin Park songs and Naruto videos like
Lost characters to Snow Patrol.
yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like, and this is an actual trailer.
Zach, did you upload those videos? Were you in charge of that channel?
Maybe. I might have been.
Bro, the trailer had leaked, and I saw people were, I don't know what critic it was, they were bashing him. Because if there's two people who go at critics, it's Ayer. Ayer hates the staff at
Yeah, he
IndieWire, and it's obviously Snyder. And I can't remember who it was. Maybe you guys remember, but Snyder went at somebody saying, like, stop reporting on
for
Scott
leak.
Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
The box office guy, Forbes.
Yeah.
Forbes.
Who, you know, I've also said this too. There's like not liking it, but then there's also just always overly reporting and saying, just
Yeah,
say, hey, I'm a
exactly.
reporter, I got to do this. I was like, all right, but if you don't want to
Yeah.
get jumped on that street, stop going down that street.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
like, what? You can cover so many other things.
Yeah, you can just let this chill for a bit.
But I saw the leak trailer, you know, because I didn't know if it was real or not, because people were saying, oh, you're covering leaked or whatever. So I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, this isn't real. It doesn't make any sense. It's just Hallelujah over.
Footage we've already seen for the most part.
I said, who made this? This is a fan trailer. I didn't even. Then I see it. I was like, and this is someone who, as you know, out of the three of us, I'd say I'm the most excited for this. I'm not
Yeah,
one
you
who's
would
ever
be.
changed it.
Yeah, you would be.
But I'm also not.
We're not
in a
clowning on the
cult.
Snyder Cut, just the
The
trailer.
trailer. I didn't get
exactly.
what's happening there, but yeah. Again, using Hallelujah again just reminds me you got to like send in a report, so you just like fluff out the words, or in a video you reuse like a bit that you already know.
Yeah,
Like, what are you doing?
exactly.
I don't know. I'm excited to see what the actual announcement is going to be, whether they go the miniseries route, whether they don't. But I think still the best part comes off to the Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I did hear that they said it was going to be 4-hour-long episodes.
I hadn't heard that, but maybe you're right.
4 hour long episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
4
yes.
hour long.
4 1-hour-long episodes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That.
No,
I
it's a
don't mind that.
12-hour. It's a 12-hour movie.
Yeah, I
now.
was like, relax now.
Homie, what? Yeah.
And then there's still an extended cut. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I will mention, because I know it doesn't have to do a part of that, but they are announcing DC Fandome 2, which, I mean, after Disney went and started doing theirs, Hall H and everything going on in San Diego Comic-Con just seems to be diminishing with people, with as we've seen with streaming, studios realizing they can do all the work themselves.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, that is one of the more interesting things about DC Fandome's existence in the first place. They looked at D23 and were basically like, why don't we have one?
Yeah.
And as all these companies sort of try to make their own versions of Comic-Con or E3 or whatever it is, it's like, will those group ones even continue to exist? Who knows, especially as we don't know when we're going to have a convention
Exactly.
type of thing
Yeah.
again. Yeah. All right, so unanimous excitement for the Batman.
Yes.
John Boyega gave an illuminating interview to GQ where he opened up about his experience on the latest Star Wars trilogy. Boyega has made some subtler comments through Twitter and Instagram expressing his displeasure in the past, but here he gets much more direct, saying to Disney, quote, do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and then have them pushed to the side. He went on to say, I'm the only cast member who had their own unique experience of that franchise based on their race. Nobody else in the cast had people saying they were going to boycott the movie because they were in it. Nobody else had the uproar and death threats into their Instagram DMs and social media saying black this and black that and you shouldn't be a stormtrooper. Nobody else had that experience, but yet people are surprised that I'm this way. Art, yay or nay? Boyega's comments puts new perspective on these Star Wars films for you.
No.
Because we already knew.
Thank you. Bro, we said this. When'd you make your video, Amanda?
I didn't even end up talking about it because I was just like, I just yelled about it for like weeks on stream, and I just like, I don't have the energy to like address this.
So people got your thoughts. We talked about it, Zach. Like we all knew about this, and when we all said this, people went, "Stop speaking for." Okay, here they are. You needed an article. You could have seen it. All right, now we said it in words. And now you're going to come up with something else to backtrack. And as John Boyega had to come out, quote the full article if you want to quote the full article. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, at first, it's John Boyega doesn't even feel that way. John Boyega feels that way. Well, screw him. So it's like if you're going to change the goalposts every single time, then at that point, you know that people just don't want to listen. And, people will defend properties. They'll defend corporations. But honestly, it's everything we've already known. Some of the extra bits, some of the fleshed out, it's like you already know it. Mm-hmm. Oh, but it happened like that. His toys going from, I think, the 14 lines that they had, getting cut down to like 3, getting cut down to 1. While Ray, because he said it too, he's like, hey, Ray, what's her name?
Daisy Ridley.
And Kylo.
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
They know. He kept saying, he's like, hey, They know. Ask them. Go ask them. Their toys are just fine. They never had, and it's funny because they still did though. He was like, their storylines, they always knew what they were going to do with them, but not with us. John, I don't think anyone knew anything with any of them. But still, I get the sentiment he was going for. And yeah, you can't belittle someone's opinion who was on set. And I think the best line that he had was, they expect me to just go up there like a puppet and say, this good, this good, this good. I had a great time filming. Well, when I have a great time filming, I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine how excited he might have felt when you get... Because like you get
Star Wars?
Yeah, you get so excited to be in Star Wars, and then JJ sets it up so that you're like, oh man, I'm gonna be like a Jedi, and then it doesn't happen. But it's like, okay, but you still have like a really interesting character arc of a reformed stormtrooper that you can still do a lot of really interesting things with that, even if he's not a Jedi. But then,
which was hinted at.
Yeah, and then it kind of gets completely flipped around, and then maybe by the time it gets back to the third one, you're like, okay, JJ's back. Maybe it's going to be my time to shine. And then it was just like even further. It was like so much further pushed down, being like, Ray, I have something to talk to you about that never comes up.
Did you hear what he said? He's like, and stop bringing my boy JJ. He was like, he wasn't supposed to come back, but y'all had to knock on his door and bring him back for the third one to fix your mistakes. And I was like, so this is really just confirming everything that we said. You know how like some people, again, I'm excited for the Snyder Cut, but it was never done. It is never going to happen. Yeah. Those people were wrong. I don't think it's done. Those people weren't wrong. It wasn't done. You need another 25 mil. It is okay to, to be concrete with it. Yeah. They did not have a plan. And John Boyega here is now telling you, I mean, y'all could have seen it in the movies, but if you need me to say it on an article, here it is. They had no idea what they were doing. Yeah. You're right. He was supposed to be that was one of the first shots. You were talking about his excitement. Have you seen his trailer reaction? It's one of the best trailer reactions of all time. Yeah. To him experiencing the Force Awakens trailer, because he's the first one to come out. He goes, it's been 30-something years since we're bringing back and continuing the story, and the first thing you see, he said it, he's like, the first thing I see is black in Star Wars. Yeah. He's like, and then what did they do to our story?
Nothing. And then they did the same thing to Oscar Isaac. They had cast him as a Jedi too, and then they were like, no, you're just gonna be new Han, like.
And belittle him with what they did with the power dynamics in the second one, where they just belittled him.
Yeah, because like I don't even.
He was the janitor, like he was the mechanic.
Yeah, like I love a lot of the stuff that they did with Last Jedi, but it is more around Rey and Kylo. Everything else was just kind of like, we're just gonna ruin this character and ruin this character. And it's like, oh my god.
Disney has more money than HBO, right?
I would think that would be
I would
fairly
assume.
safe to assume.
Because that Game of Thrones terrible finale, everyone came at it.
Yeah.
The Star Wars ones, it's been 50-50. But like you said, who we just mentioned? Poe? He said everything. He was like, we were supposed to be gay. They didn't want us to be gay.
Yeah.
Where do you get that idea from? The clip I just showed you of Poe saying we were supposed to be gay. And they were, what did he say? He's like, but the top execs were too whatever to do it. They never had the guts to do it.
Yeah, they didn't have the guts.
He told you this in December.
Yeah, but it's cool. They threw in that like really quick gay kiss in the background that they could cut out for international releases. It's fine. They're woke.
Now you got Boyega telling you this.
Yeah.
Disney does not have enough money for little by little, then having Driver will tell you stuff.
Yeah.
Driver will 100% tell you
Yo, he's
stuff.
doing fine, so he can afford to be
fine.
like, you know what? I'm doing great. Fuck you guys.
I'm doing great, so I'm going to tell you everything that happened in this thing.
Yeah.
You know, Daisy Ridley, I think she's way more respectable, I guess. Maybe not wanting to get there. Mark Hamill did it. Mark Hamill did it 3 years ago. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're always, every year, going to get something official from the cast telling you, nah, it was garbage. So I'm curious to see that 50-50 start going more on the side of, they really... Because some people still believe that they handled the trilogy well. It is so apparent they did not handle the trilogy well. It is so apparent.
Every movie
they're
feels
telling
like...
you themselves.
Yeah, every movie feels like a little independent cut. And it's like, here, these are the characters you have to work with. Do whatever you want with them. Because it doesn't feel attached. It doesn't feel attached. And part 3 is literally just kind of like, I'm going to retcon everything. Like,
Zach, outside of Star Wars, is there anything that stood out to you? Like, I know we're so invested with the property side of it, but like...
Right. Well, I mean, I think the thing that really stands out is the lack of support he feels, you know, and it highlights how you can be kind of the face of a franchise, but you don't necessarily have the weight or power of a franchise behind you, right? And that talking about that moment where not only it's the reveal of the Star Wars trail and it opens on the reveal of him, it kind of feels like its own iconic moment, right? Like, it is. Even the first Star Wars trailer, I feel like almost had a bigger impact than like the final movie.
It did, for sure.
And that the central figure in that, who was so important to that moment, feels so let down by the production of this whole thing. I think it speaks to this moment we're talking about in representation, in that like tokenism representation is not enough, and there has to be more fully across the board support behind your more marginalized members, you know. And it sucks because this could have been such a great moment, not just for his legacy, but like in the story of Hollywood or something. And I think what you see, both from what I'm talking about and what you guys have been talking about, is that if you're trying to make these kind of large, impactful, meaningful movies, you can't rush the productions and put the release date ahead of the plan, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that he was supposed to be a Jedi with Rey, and that whole thing that they ended up doing with Kylo about them being two halves, it really should have been them two, but they didn't want one to be black? So then they were like, okay, let's retcon all that. Even though she has no parents, okay, they don't want her other half to be John Boyega. Redo it and have it be Kylo instead.
I don't even know. I'm iffy. I do kind of like the yin and yang to the Kylo and Rey thing, because you have Kylo who's like coming from like the good, and he has all of this goodness inside him that he's trying to kill off to be evil. Like, he has to kill his father to kill it off. And then you have Rey, who is so positive and uplifting, but she has all that darkness inside of her from being like abandoned as a child that she's trying to fight down, and then that's coming out. I really like that dichotomy between those two characters, but I don't like the direction that they ended up taking that in, where it would I can't even talk about it anymore. I just don't like the direction that they went with that. But no, I definitely think that that they should have kind of committed to the John Boyega thing, or at least like really driven home something that, you know, he was just kind of like exemplary individual, so that even if he wasn't like technically a Jedi, just using the lightsaber. But even that, I always get weird when people that aren't Jedi using lightsabers, because they're always described as like, this thing is so deadly that like one wrong move and you will like literally cut off your own head. So like, it's the average person isn't supposed to be able to just pick one of these up and like go to town with it.
In a dark forest where it's snowing.
So there should have been like something there, but yeah, I don't know.
They wanted to Disney Plus him. And he said,
Disney
"You ain't
Plus
going Disney Plus me."
Yeah, not today.
Yeah.
No.
So that's it for yay or nay. We've got a quick question in our interview section, but let us know what you thought about these topics and what you'd like us to cover in future weeks by leaving a question in the comments, hitting us up on social media at IntercutPod, or emailing us intercutpod@gmail.com. Be like Ehrlich and send in a question. He sent in a couple last week. We've only got the one from Twitter from G Money, who caught Vivarium on Amazon Prime and loved it. He wanted to hear our take on it. Art, I know that you've caught this one.
Mm-hmm. The kid is so annoying. Sometimes you have to deal with the thing. It's like, all right, we have an annoying character, and we have to show the audience that it annoys our main cast.
Yeah.
How do you also not annoy the audience, though, is a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I was like, it didn't completely ruin it for me, but a lot of the people who I know came to our explanation video on Let Me Explain were like, that kid, they just couldn't see anything after that kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I do enjoy it. I went back on all of Lorcan Finnegan's filmography, and you could kind of see like a running theme, and you could tell. I feel like a lot of people come into movies with what they expect already, and they don't want to take the time to see others' perspective. That said, a lot of filmmakers come with like, I'm going to say this with this imagery because it means this, this, and this to me. Cool. You just showed them the imagery. None of the background of what you've already thought. So they don't realize that their audience is also coming in to see a movie without all of those preconceived notions, you know? Mm-hmm. I do like the metaphors that he gave dealing with like the housing, that's going on there. And there's a lot of other stuff that a lot of people aren't coming in to see that. A lot of people want to know horror and how did they not escape? And from that aspect, I don't think it's the strongest. But I really did like the metaphors that came with like, this is a young couple and now they're stuck with a kid and they're living in a system where, society told them that they need to have a house by this age, and they end up getting a house that they're now stuck with paying in as he goes to work. And it's like he's digging his own grave, his own hole until he dies. Yeah. So it's just that cycle of life that's very mundane. So if people found the movie that's talking about the cycle of life being mundane, I can't say it doesn't not make sense. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the visuals. I thought it was a decent watch. Mm-hmm. But I feel like The Lodge, which also was another horror movie that a lot of people went in and went, that was depressing. I didn't have fun. Yeah. I think that was the point.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. I know. Yeah. Amanda saw it as well, if anything you wanted to add to it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since back when it kind of first dropped. I think it was back in March or something when it first, maybe April. Yeah. But I know that there was like the whole like allegory with the cuckoo that I like with the nest and like kind of what that was standing for. And I do like the direction it went to like parallel just the very mundane aspect of life with that higher implementation of like the more horror aspect and like the weird things going on to make it seem like it's more than just the mundanity of life, even though that's essentially what it is. And I definitely get why it didn't hit for a lot of people, but I feel like the people that are finding it that enjoy it are really enjoying it. Like I'm not finding many wishy-washy people on it.
G-Money loved it.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody recently that's seen it like so many times because she likes it so much, and it's just some people. I think it's definitely one of those things. I feel like if you go into it with expectations, it's never going to meet them because I don't think it was what people thought it was going to be. So I feel like if you're going to watch it, don't look into it. Don't watch any trailers. There's no need to do anything because trailers need to get out of this, especially now that we are moving to streaming platforms and it's not just getting butts and seats in a theater. That's what trailers were always for. It didn't matter if it was being marketed properly. They just wanted as many seats filled for the opening weekend, regardless of how they had to market it.
You could lie to them.
Yeah,
lie to them.
They lied to them.
As long as the butt's in the seat.
That happened with Fight Club. That happened with Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And it's like those things did
comes
thankfully...
at night.
Yeah, it comes at night. Thankfully, those things did find their audience down the road, but think of how many movies didn't. Think of all the movies that I can't think of in my head right now that had horrible trailers that didn't represent the movie, so people went into it with misunderstandings of what it was going to be, and that affected their ability to enjoy it. So
true.
Yeah, that's what I think happened here, for sure.
My boy Jesse's good in it.
Oh, he's
Jesse
great.
Eisenberg.
It was Imogen Poots asked him, "Hey, you want to be in this movie with me? Because I got cast in this, and he let me pick whoever I want." And he's like, "What do I have to play?" He's like, "You're playing the machismo husband."
And he's like, yes.
He was like, I've never played that in my life. Let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah.
The opposite of the art of self-defense.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly,
cool.
exactly. Another really weird one that I think that if you watch the trailer, you might not know what to expect going into a movie.
Yep.
But yeah.
But that one's also great.
It is, yeah. Like it.
Yep. All right, be an inner cutie and leave us your questions on movies, TV, or entertainment to see them featured in future episodes of Intercut. We're going to head to our topic of the week, and this week it's Fantasia Fest, which recently wrapped up its mostly virtual, or I think it's all virtual run, even though it's in Canada. A genre film festival. It's a well-known genre film festival. Features a lot of foreign and horror and comedy and animated and all sorts of assortments of independent films. This year, a lot of the selections were movies that premiered elsewhere, but it's still an interesting slate of movies, some of which are going to be available now or soon, some that you'll have to just keep on your radar. I know we wanted to talk about a few honorable mentions before we get started into our top 5. So, Art, do you want to lead the way with your first honorable mention from Fantasia?
So I saw a couple of documentaries from there that I liked. One of them did make my top, but the other one is available to watch right now on HBO Max called Class Action Park. Maybe you have seen the Johnny Knoxville movie. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But with
Action Park.
There you go, Action Park. Based off of the real Action Park. It's a pretty interesting documentary that just chronicles this crazy park in the United States that had absolutely no regulations, where the pitch wasn't safety, it was death. It was the appeal that you could die at this park that made it so much fun. I think it's a nice little doc. Again, you can watch that over on HBO Max. Some of these I'm not sure if it's going to be in your guys' top, so I'm going to say Labyrinth of Cinema was very close to being number 5. It's just so wonky. Any of you guys catch this one?
No, I didn't.
No.
3 hours of pure craziness. I want to say it's a Japanese film that is taking advantage of the fact that zoom in. It's cinema.
Oh, man.
It's editing. It's cool. Now everything's green screened away from me, and the whole movie is telling you like it's going through cinemas. People are watching a movie and they're like in the movie, but they're not in the movie. It is all of the basics and rules of editing, visuals, dollies, all of it is being deconstructed in this movie for 3 hours. None of it makes any sense. It all makes sense. It is zany. It is crazy. It is goofy. Maybe 3 hours is a long time, but give this a watch when you can.
It has good reviews on Letterboxd, like 3.8.
It's so bonkers, but it is kind of saying something. It's a little bit like think we are zombies. We are little zombies.
Oh yeah, we are little zombies.
We are little zombies.
So take that along with like a book that is teaching you about like symbolism and visuals and how a visual thing can how you're interpreting that in your mind, and they just put it together. So it's kind of like a lesson on cinema while at the same time being this crazy bonkers story that's taking you everywhere.
Nice.
That was also pretty good. I have a couple of other ones, but I'm curious to see if you guys end up mentioning them. If not, I can bring them up before top 5. So cool. What are you guys?
Amanda, honorable mentions?
I'm probably going to end up a little bit like him, but so one is Monster Seafood Wars, which was, it's just, if you're going to be a big dumb monster movie, like be a big dumb monster movie. Like then I can get on board with it. It's basically this movie where, you know, somebody's made something that can make things grow exponentially, and it's supposed to help cure the hunger market. And it just, you know, this guy's going with his little offering of like a crab and a squid and an octopus, and it's like, and it falls out and gets into the stuff, so it just turns into this huge battle where they're trying to deal with it. It's wild. It's very like very memey. Like when you're watching it, it's gonna feel just, I don't know, it's just very ridiculous, very fun. Like this probably would have been one that would have been very fun to catch in a theater, just with everybody kind of interacting with it. It's Japanese, so big fan of that one. Another one that's kind of closer to my top 5, and honestly maybe it's one of the ones that I could interchange into my top 5s just because of how fun it was. This was a 2019 one though, Fly Me to Saitama, which is based on a manga or an anime or both from like the 1980s, and it's it like you're watching, it's got to be one of the best like anime adaptations to live action that I've ever seen, because they really commit to just the insane visuals, like he's Japanese but he's been in America, so he's, you know, come back and he's got like the crazy hair and like the blue contacts and stuff, and it's just, you know, wearing like the very fancy capes and stuff, so when he's walking he'll be like he's walking around, but the whole thing is basically these people are driving in a car listening to this old story or urban legend, and then it cuts into them like going through that whole urban legend thing, and it's just so it's just think of like all of those like fun, like really quirky animes, and that's basically what that movie was. It was just very fun.
There was a lot of animes that were adapted
here,
like into movies, which I found interesting. Another one was Kakegurui, I think. This girl who just like bets. Yeah, she does bets, and I was like, all right, I have not read the entire manga, so I don't know how much of this I'm gonna understand, but that was cool to see Fantasia do a lot of that.
Yeah, they did. Oh yeah, and there was like a Detention was a video game adaptation.
Really? That's a video game?
Yeah,
wow.
It is.
Okay.
Which I actually really liked it.
Makes some sense.
Yeah, it has the feels in certain areas where you're like, okay, here's your
We'll be talking more about that.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll leave that for now. I think everything else will probably end up being in my top 5. I think there was another one called Bring Me Home that was very...
That one was pretty good.
It's good.
With the sun?
Yeah, it's bleak. It's depressing. It's like it's a Korean vengeance type film. I do think it kind of brings it around for the end, but I saw people being like, I had to shut this off after like an hour because I couldn't handle how bleak and depressing it was. I'm like, well, you didn't get to the other side. Yes, it's still bleak and depressing, but you didn't get to the other side. But yeah, that one was definitely worth it as well. And that should be around somewhere because it's been floating around since 2019.
I just got a couple quick honorable mentions. Jumbo, which I've brought up before, which played Chattanooga Film Festival, which Amanda caught way back at Sundance, is a really cool kind of oddly sweet movie about a woman who falls in love with the tilt-a-whirl machine. So definitely check that one out when you can.
Actress from
Noémie Merlant from Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Chasing Dream, the one from director Johnny To, a Chinese film that's a really bizarre mix of tones and settings. It's like partly an MMA film, partly about a singing competition. These two people who are massively in debt to the Chinese mafia are then intertwined in this movie that has a random like Bollywood style singing number, and occasionally people will just jump around like it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This was all over the place, but it just is so silly and weird and kind of like big in its emotions that I kind of was won over by the end. I don't know if this is one that I would say is good, but it's one that I definitely enjoyed.
I really wanted to catch that one, but I just didn't get a chance to by the end.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I was jumping from one thing to another. I was like, do you recommend me 3 movies or 1? The director also had a previous film of his from the 90s that was at the fest. And a lot of people were putting it at number 1. I was like, this guy's got 2 movies at the... I was like, this doesn't count. This is a rewatch. This is like the re-screening.
Yeah.
His other movie that was playing at the fest supposedly is fantastic. I didn't get to catch that one, but he did have another
Johnny
one.
Johnny 2. He's got a couple movies that are well known, like Drug War and Election. Haven't seen.
Yeah, there was a couple of.
And
sorry, no, you go. I was just gonna say there was a couple of like really high rated movies that ended up being from like years ago, like WeirDO. I was like, oh, that's so interesting, but it's like 2009, and I was like, it's not really.
Hey, but at least really it's verified that it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Verified that it was good, but not really like like 2019 I'll do, but like otherwise. Yeah.
And then my other honorable mention is Marrygoround, which was the award winner for Best Film and Best Director and Best Actress at Fantasia Fest. Puzzling movie, but one that was shot really gorgeously. The film is filled with these like blue walls and green tiles and blue textures and green lights, and that whole green-blue palette throughout with the striking reds from her hair to the lights. Just really... I thought was intriguing and beautiful in certain parts. There's like this weird music video-esque sequence in the middle that's you could just drop a good song over it and release that right now. But the story itself was a little bit confounding, so that's ultimately why I don't put it on my top 5. But I think we should just get into the top 5. Art, if you want to kick it off.
Yes, sir. All right, at number 5, I have a little movie that a lot of people were saying they were watching and just left with a big smile. It's called The Paper Tigers. It's pretty much these 3 guys who were like prodigies who end up growing up and are now middle-aged, and they forgot everything kind of that they knew. One has a kid, the other one's got a bad leg, the other one is just doing his own thing. And it reminded me a lot, like in the vein of right now that Netflix just picked up Cobra Kai, and a lot of people are getting in tune to that. It's kind of like that, the Karate Kid years later. I thought it was a cute little movie. A lot of their marketing for it, at least during the fest, was just the behind the scenes. So I was like, this is like a homegrown movie. So I really appreciated that. It's funny. It's very lighthearted. I really like the kung fu aspects of it, which they say, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and they make a big emphasis, it's not kung fu, it's gung fu. And it was just pretty much that they're trying to avenge their teacher now that he has passed. And it's also realizing that they left that whole legacy behind and went to go do their own thing instead of staying in the dojo. One funny aspect that they have, surprisingly, and this can only happen with something that's, a really tight-knit crew, they have a lot of like racial stuff that you would do in an everyday thing with people who you actually interact with, right? But a big movie won't cover that. They'll just stay away from it. They get into like, because one of them is black, the rest of them are Asian, so there's a lot of like those off the hand, would get canceled in a big budget feature, but here they just like, they play into it. And it's not like they belittle any specific group, I would say. But it's definitely something that could only happen if you had a tight cast like this. So I would recommend The Paper Tigers. Isn't mind-blowingly like fantastic, but I thought it was a very heartfelt movie. And I really liked the I wouldn't call it amateur, but like just the roots of the choreography that they did for this movie and the behind the scenes that they showcased. Cool. So The Paper Tigers.
Very cool. We'll have to check out that one. Amanda, where are we starting off? What's your number 5?
Like I said, a couple of mine are kind of jumping around, but I think I'm going to go with Lapsis, which was actually the first movie I saw from the festival. And it really does feel like a Black Mirror episode. Like you're going to watch it and it's going to feel very reminiscent of that. It's one of those, it's like an alternate present type thing. Like everything about it when you're watching it, like they have cell phones, same kind of cars, like everything's going to feel very regular. But then there's that other aspect that's just so alien, like it's going to feel so alien. So the whole thing is that they've basically moved into like quantum computers, and they have these people who lay down these like the wires, basically the connection. So I don't know, imagine somebody like going and
5G.
putting like they basically put people going through and putting in like electricity stuff, except they're just walking on the ground, and they're they're laying all these things, and depending on how difficult your terrain is, the more money you make as you're doing it. But the whole thing just kind of ends up being this whole allegory for how like the working class gets exploited and the rich keep getting richer, and it's really like when you kind of see it from that end, it's like very striking. And like the last shot like kind of brings everything back together, because there's these robots that can obviously go through the night and they can take over your trail. So even if you already selected the trail and you're like, I'm gonna get paid like $100,000 to do this crazy trail, if you sleep and that thing overtakes you, that's all your work gone, because it's now just overtaken your thing. So it like really comes back around at the end with that. So I was really intrigued by it. And I'm assuming it's probably, if you like Black Mirror, you'll probably really end up enjoying it.
I got this one at South by.
When
South by sent out a list. There was very few movies. This was one of the ones that was on there. So I had caught that one before. Exactly as Amanda described it. Like, it's literally, they're going to exploit you to the highest degree. Yeah. It is like laying down track for what would be, whatever you want to call it, 5G, the electronic thing. But they've done it in an Uber way, in an Amazon driver type way, where they're just hiring third-party people. Yep. So when you're able to hire third-party people and they're not your employees, just like you are able to exploit Uber drivers and Lyft drivers and all these people, they use those little robots to just like tell you, it's like, no, this is capitalism 101. We will work you till you're done. Yeah. And if you ever want to take a break, then you're literally done. Yeah. I'm curious to see how this one will do once it actually opens up and more people get to see it. I think they'll like it. It reminds me of, I hope it gets something like The Platform, because The Platform kind of had those things where people were like, ooh, the allegories that are going on here. Exactly. And then it released on Netflix and people ate that up. They did. So I think this would be one that's very similar when you think of how many people are now doing similar type of jobs, on requesting a job on their phone and then going to go do it. This may be a future job. Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels kind of relevant now, but maybe it will always feel relevant.
Everything will always feel relevant, but exactly.
Yeah.
My number 5 is one that I think will come up again later, but it's The Oak Room, a really interesting movie that kind of has this very stripped down structure in that it's a series of conversations that kind of bring you back and forth throughout time. I thought the way that they built tension was really interesting, and I think a smartly written script is one in which they can kind of build tension and then give you a release, and this movie does that over and over again in some compelling ways. So I really responded to the structure of it, and it's got a cool twist that I finally know now.
He got Amanda's let me explain at the beginning.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of dug this one. RJ Mitty from Breaking Bad shows up, so familiar face in that one too. So The Oak Room, my number 5.
I liked it.
Art, number 4?
My number 4 is this little movie. I want to say, let me open it up here, make sure. Yes, it is a Korean movie called Vertigo. And I actually had this one on my watch list. I don't know if it was at another festival or something, but I was looking through Letterboxd. I was like, just to check to see if this movie, if what others thought of it. And I was like, well, I guess I thought that I should watch this because it's on my watch list. And that was pretty good.
Yeah.
It follows a graphic designer who works at this really huge skyscraper, and she's got kind of 3 things going on. She's got 2 relationships, one with an actual big head honcho that you see early on, and then one with a window washer. A window washer who comes in and is always just making eye contact with her, whether she's at a meeting, whether she's, getting coffee. No matter where she is in this building, that building's got a window, and the window washer is right there. Yeah. But she's also suffering from vertigo, as, previous movie named Vertigo as well. She gets very dizzy, and it's how all those things come together. I thought it was a very interesting way of covering the power dynamics that is happening not only there at her office, but just also as a rom-com in and of itself, and a personal tale that she's going through. Because I also have another one where the main character is suffering from almost type fainting. That was, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but that was a nice little through line that I caught in a couple of these movies. The character, what was her thing in Knives Out, where she throws up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what the name of that is, but you give a character something.
Yeah, they never say what it is.
It's like she will throw up if she lies. This person will faint if there's something like that. And I'm realizing that's become a new go-to for a lot of screenwriters. And so far, I think they use them pretty well. Yeah. When it comes to that time of knowing what the character is bound to do in a situation that's out of their control, Vertigo did it well. Thought Knives Out did it well. But I got another one that does it even better further on. But Vertigo, very good movie with a lot of different things going on. Very beautifully shot. Nice. And
awesome.
Maybe cheesy of an ending, but who cares?
That was one I really wanted to catch, and then for some reason never ended up getting to. So I'm hoping I get to catch it.
I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Cool. Amanda, you're number 4.
I think I'm going to go with Mortuary Collection for number 4.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so that one, it's I'm the reason why I kind of wanted to put it on my list, because it's kind of very unusual for me. I don't like anthology-based things usually. Usually something starts hitting with an anthology, and I'm like, I'm out. I don't like it. I don't care. I don't like any of this. But this is an anthology, basically, but there's a through line in the story. So, everything that's going on, you'll have, a character from one story that kind of appears in the next story, and it's all kind of winding around there until it gets to its conclusion. I'm not huge on the way it ended, but it's basically just these series of horror shorts, but they're long enough that it feels like you get enough of a taste of what's going on, and some of them are weird. They are very different from what you would normally get from a typical kind of a horror anthology type thing. Jacob Elordi is in one of them. He was also in the second, so he's in Kissing Booth. So I was like, yo, homie's not having a good year.
Euphoria, though.
Yeah, exactly. Euphoria too. But I ended up being surprised by how much I ended up liking it. It's also very interesting, stylistically. It's kind of got this. They make it kind of look very antiquated with how it's filmed. It's kind of the way with the washes, while still also feeling very modern in how it's all playing out. It's one of those ones. It's you don't necessarily know where you'd pick it on a piece of time, on a moment in time. So yeah, I thought it was interesting, and just because I normally don't like anything that has that anthology vibe, I figured it was worth mentioning.
Awesome. Yeah. Be curious to check that one out. My number 4 is Class Action Park.
Hey.
It's a documentary about the amusement park in Mount Vernon, New Jersey, which is not too far from me. One of my very first memories in life is being in the infirmary at Action Park.
Oh, wow.
You went?
To pick up my cousin.
Wow,
I was there.
New Jersey for real.
Damn.
And yeah, all I remember from my trip was being in the infirmary because my cousin had burned himself on the Alpine slide badly. So I know firsthand this is a park that takes no prisoners and was probably shoddily built. I mean, I don't remember it from when I went. But yeah, it's a really interesting documentary just because it kind of gives you the story of this like crazy man's vision for like a no rules park and just what the consequences are from it, and the way that the documentary does take the time to show you the consequences of what happens, I think is well done. But it's also got these very amusing interviews, particularly from comedian Chris Gethard, another Jersey native who talks about his many stories from Action Park. And honestly, I might just watch a 90-minute documentary of Chris Gethard talking about Action Park. But it's one of the films that is available right now. It's available on HBO Max. So if you find it interesting, you can go watch it right away. My number 4, Class Action Park.
Nice.
Dope.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue
Art,
with
number 3.
another doc. The David Arquette doc. You cannot kill David Arquette. This was one that I wanted to see at South by, and it wasn't available digitally at South by, but it was for Fantasia. This thing is an introspective on his life, and it is so embarrassing, which is kind of like a positive for a documentary. He gets his current wife. He gets his ex-wife, Courtney Cox, right?
Yeah. Courtney Cox.
Yeah.
She's in it talking about
Courtney
stuff,
Cox,
and they go into everything in his life. He tells you, I blew it.
Yeah.
I had a career and I decided to wrestle. And Hollywood, I am just a Hollywood black. He doesn't even say blacklisted. He calls himself a screw up. He's like, I'm the one who did it wrong. And he puts all that blame on him. But you know what? His favorite movie last year must have been Fighting With My Family, because he has wrestling in his genes. All of his siblings are like, I don't get it. Like, I'm here on Oprah or Ellen telling you I have no idea what my brother's doing. Yeah. And it really is his wrestling journey and how much he loves that lifestyle. And I think it comes across very well in the movie, along with that of like a broken actor, not to call him like BoJack Horseman or anything, but having previous documentaries on like really big celebrities that you're like doing an introspective on, not an actor to a degree, but the magician one that I liked from Sundance, Amazing Jonathan.
Yeah.
And looking at his like substance problems, and really how it comes down to the people, it's hurting the main subject the most, but it's how it affects his family around him. And that idea that they're just like kind of waiting, they're not, you're not waiting for the bad to happen, but the path they're going down, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? And I think that the documentary does a really good job at getting into the most personal aspects of his life, and I found it very compelling, and it was pretty well put together. And he shows you everything, man. This man shows you everything. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys caught this one, your guys' thoughts, but I would recommend it.
Yeah, I was really excited to see it because I had been watching a bunch of interviews for Spree, because I made a video on that last week, and he's in Spree, and like
he's the dad.
He's the dad, and some of the like interviews, he's just like, oh yeah, like I'm just so when he said it was like a movie about cringe, like that's me. And then like the director's like, yeah, like we're sending Kiri a bunch of like cringe compilations, but we got Arquette right here, and it's like, so like seeing all those interviews and then watching this movie, this documentary, to just kind of see where his like mental process is and how it's been over the past handful of years. Because like other than that, like I'm a huge Scream fan, so that's where I know him from, and I never really had any reference for the rest of his life, and it's just so very interesting. Yeah,
it is. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
But
you'd say it's like a pretty positive documentary, even though it gets into some of the like fall from grace stuff.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Or
right.
Well, you cannot beat David Arquette, like.
Yeah, I think it gets there. Yeah. That's the name of it. You cannot kill David
Yeah,
Arquette, so he's got his ego there. But another one that I would recommend here, one that I actually have on my to watch list, is Morgana. I don't know if you guys read up on that, but that's also a real life story about a woman who was like about to commit suicide, and then she was like, "What if I didn't and became a porn star and then became like a mogul, like just has all of these things going on, and she found like her true calling."
Yeah, they hit me up
so
for
the
like
documentaries this year.
They hit me up with the screener link for that like a month ago, and the way they were describing it, and they're like, so now with all of that, what if we told you this was a documentary?
So I would say that a lot of the Fantasia documentaries, they get into like, you know, David Arquette's drug abuse. Morgana's like on the edge of committing suicide, and then they create a legacy. Exactly. So a lot of the documentaries, Fantasia gets into like a lot of dark stuff, but I think most of them still end up being very empowering by the end of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Amanda, what's that? Your number 3.
I guess I'm going to go with WeirDO, which I don't even necessarily know if I can put this in my top 5, but it's just like, so it starts off and it's like this guy who has OCD, and not just kind of like, I'm so OCD, but it's like, no, like his entire day routine has to go exactly the way it always does. He has to buy groceries on the same day of every week at the same store, you know, all of these different processes. And then something happens that his usual grocery store is closed, but if you only get groceries one day a month, like that means you're out of groceries officially. So he has to go somewhere else, and he runs into someone else who's all hooked up with like the protection raincoat and the mask and the gloves, and she's buying all of the cleaning supplies that he needs. So they kind of make this relationship between the two of them where they understand each other. It's like, you know, realistically, it probably wouldn't be very functional to have two people with OCD trying to like survive together, because you would probably just encourage your negative behaviors, but they really come together. And it's so quirky and fun. But then there's this hard shift in the middle where it just gets depressing. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And it's just for like the sheer interest of how staunchly it just changes from one page to the next that I'm like, people should probably watch this. But yeah, it was interesting. And then the whole thing shot on an iPhone, which I thought was also pretty interesting as well. Yeah, the whole thing. So it was such an experience just being like, oh, this is so quirky and cute and fun and blah, blah, blah. And then it just like hits a moment and you're like, oh, bro. So
interesting.
Yeah. I love a movie with a hard shift. That makes me super intrigued.
You know?
Yeah, and it's like a hard shift
it's
between
like a beat change.
Yeah, because it's not even just kind of like depressing to violent or, you know, comedy to like dramedy. It's just like shift. So.
Yeah. It's just a new genre.
Yeah, no, like legitimately.
That sounds dope.
Awesome. Yeah. At number 3, I've also got a documentary. It's called Feels Good, Man.
Hey, I'll be catching that this week.
It was a Sundance documentary originally, and then playing here at Fantasia Fest. It tells the story of the Pepe the Frog meme, and that's kind of what kept me away from this documentary for a little while. Like, I don't know if I need any more of that content in my life, right? Just because it's like it gets into some like ugly areas that I don't know if I want to sit down for a full movie and you know, just commit my brain to that brain space. But in telling the full story of how this meme grew out of control and kind of showing the conception from artist Matt Fury and its roots and its more innocent nature, and then how step by step how it was subverted and perverted. I think it's just a really comprehensive look at what memes do and how memes are weaponized or utilized by different sections of the internet. And, you know, while if you're very internet literate, you might, you know, not need the explanation of what 4chan is. I think just in the way it's very comprehensive look at that type of internet subculture is going to be really useful for people who maybe don't have every step of that process or want to see just how things can spiral out of control in our digital plugged-in world. So it's really interesting, it's particularly because they keep going back to these interviews with Fury, the original artist, and he's just this really like delicate, like he's the most like non-violent, innocent little guy. He's like Bambi, yet the world he's now entered into is so ugly, and just that juxtaposition becomes so interesting as the film progresses. So I was kind of dreading watching this one, and I ended up pretty liking it quite a bit. So Feels Good, Man. I think it's on VOD now.
Yep, those came out. I'm excited for this one because, like you put it, some people don't need it. And like you said, you don't want to spend because you know how the internet works. Some people don't know how the internet works. And I am realizing I want to add another one here. I don't know if it's, hopefully I don't ruin it for you, but I wasn't sure. The Columnist was another one that was out. I don't know if you guys caught that one at all.
The Columnist,
Okay. The Columnist also covers something like that where it's like she writes and then it's all these bad things that happen to her online and all these trolls. So it's a play on like all right, I'm going to kill the trolls.
Yeah.
So she goes and she starts like murdering them, right? And that's the premise of The Columnist. But it's people not realizing that throughout the entire movie, they just tell her, so what? It's just the internet.
Yeah.
And it's not real life.
But it can be.
And you don't realize how it can be. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. So some people
Like,
do
if
need
you
to
watch
be told.
The Columnist,
Yeah.
if you watch The Columnist and don't get it, you should watch Feels
Yeah.
Good.
Feels good, man, to realize that there is this isn't what did I say? I put it like when Tyler the Creator said in 2011 cyberbullying isn't a thing, just close the computer. I think even Tyler the Creator has realized that no, you cannot just close the computer anymore.
No.
There's a whole currency online that deals with your social media.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see that one. I'm excited.
Yeah, it was good.
Cool. Curious to hear your thoughts once you do catch up with it. But what's at your number 2?
My number 2, a little movie called Patrick. Please tell me you guys saw Patrick.
I saw Patrick.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's talk about this. Patrick, very simple.
I didn't see it.
I don't know. I haven't seen the trailer yet, so I don't want to spoil the type of community that he lives in. But he lives in a community where his father is in charge of this place, this little village, and he practically is able to run everything. And Patrick loses his hammer. He still lives at home, but one day he can't find his hammer, and he does everything to find that hammer.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't know what the trailer is going to reveal. I thought it was an incredible opening.
I think the images give it all away. Like, if you look it up right now, you'll know what it is.
All right, I knew nothing of this movie, so
yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
if you say that
I don't
want
necessarily want to spoil it, but it is.
Is it shocking? Is it funny? Like, where are we going for here?
Zola.
Wild?
No, but like,
Yeah, I mean,
just
well, it's
what
not
is the
wild
issue with
because-
Zola? What do you think the issue with Zola is going to be?
Oh, well, explicit, sure.
Yeah.
Right, so that's his community. He lives in that type of community.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's the opening shot, and you're like, oh,
very
that's
free.
where he lives. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it, and then you put that to the side because that's not important. This is the
not.
story of a guy
It's
who
not
lost
at
his
all.
hammer and needs to get his hammer and what the hammer represents in his life,
Yeah.
while also living in this community.
Yeah.
It is absolutely fantastic. This one and my number 1 pick are movies that I might still be recommending towards the end of the year. I absolutely love I loved Patrick. I love the way that it progressed from scene to scene, and how all this man really cared about was his hammer, but how that also has deeper emotions, not only for him, different things that he's going through, but then there's also a whole external side of it while he's looking for his hammer that he does not realize he's a part of.
Yep.
There is something bigger at play that he does not realize is going on while he's too invested into his hammer. Absolutely love this movie. I think it's a Belgium film, I want to
I
say.
thought it was German, but
Belgium.
no, Belgium definitely makes
Could be.
sense because some of them were
Yeah.
some people in the movie were French and they speak both.
There you go.
Yeah, they speak both.
Jermaine,
There you go.
Jermaine Clement is in it.
yeah, Jermaine Clement.
He plays a little character
Oh.
who comes to visit near the community. So I was like, all right, there's some stuff in here as well. And the director has done a couple of episodes of Peaky Blinders and Legion. So this feature of
worth
his
watching.
will now be what I refer to. I will not be referring to his episodes of TV. I will be referring to his directorial outset with Patrick. I really enjoyed this one. Very curious to see more people to catch Patrick, because there's a lot of scenes I enjoyed here. He was a really interesting character.
It was, yeah, he was.
All right. Definitely want to catch up with that one now. Amanda, what's your number
All
2?
right. I'm probably gonna end up cheating by the end of this, but
It's all right.
I'm gonna go with the Sheep Without a Shepherd, which is actually.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah,
I get to
it's
see it.
actually a remake, apparently. It's a remake of a movie called Drishyam, I think. But it's so good. It's basically this guy. The entire premise is like he's watched a lot of movies, and something happens where they kind of have to cover up a crime, and he's using all of this different knowledge from all of these different movies he's watched to try to cover it up and subvert things and get his whole family on board. So it's one of those things that it's I'm not going to compare it straight up to Parasite, but it definitely has some issues with like different social classes and where you have these moments of like comedy and just real levity, but then how quickly that can turn into something that's like very bleak, very heartbreaking, very serious, and like a very realistic portrayal of things that happen in real life as the things start affecting his family. And yeah, it's a emotional gut punch by the end, but it was one of those ones that kept me like very interested the entire time. So I'm a big fan of that one.
That's one of my top to watch. I have 8. I want to say 8 to 10 that I still want to watch, and that one was up there. Shepherd Without a Shepherd. Yeah.
Yeah, a little messy
That's
at
good.
times, but like definitely worth the watch. I really enjoyed it.
Very cool. Very cool. My number 2 is a movie called Fried Barry. Did anybody see Fried Barry?
No, but I know the poster.
It is based on a short film, apparently, of the same premise, and it is a wild movie. I'd say this is like a good film for like the person in your life who turned to you at some point and was like, "Have you ever seen a Serbian film?"
No.
This is a crazy movie about like this abusive asshole who is wandering the streets, kind of like being an enforcer, and then he decides to go take some heroin, and then while he's fried on heroin, he gets abducted by aliens. And the rest of the movie is this alien taking his body for like a joyride throughout Cape Town. There's like 5 different taking drug sequences, lots of nudity and sex throughout. Just like any explicit thing that you can think might happen in a midnight style movie happens in Fried Barry. And for like the first half hour, I'm kind of sitting there just like a little repulsed and a bit turned off, and then you just kind of get into the rhythms of the silly nature of this film, and his like it's this weird it's almost like this weird experiment in what would happen if you didn't know how to communicate with people but you just walked around. And it, I don't know, it has like this weird sweet story by the end of him becoming a better person through this. I don't know, man. It's insane, easily the most insane movie I saw at a festival full of insane movies, but there's just these clever bits throughout that I laughed at, so I would watch it again. It's insane, and I might have to look away from certain sequences, but Fried Barry, man, it's pretty funny.
Wow. Well, now with that premise, I have to. Did you get to see the short?
No, I haven't seen the short. Maybe I'll catch up with that and compare and contrast.
It sounds like a male under the skin. Except he would go bonkers.
Brianna Ziegler on Letterboxd said it's Under the Skin meets The Beach Bum.
Okay.
Bro, it looked like Hobo without a shot or Hobo with a shotgun. That's what it looked like to me when I was looking at things. So
it's kind of on that like Harmony Korine grungy shit. You know, it's dirty but like in a fun way. Okay.
I'm gonna have to keep that one on the horizon.
Yeah. Let's get into our number ones. Art, start us off.
My number 1 is special actors. I want to make sure I'm saying his name right. The director, Shinichiro Ueda, he did One Cut of the Dead. Ooh. And I absolutely love One Cut of the Dead. I like how he's still in the same in the same little like sandbox that he's playing here with special actors. I would highly recommend One Cut of the Dead without even, just don't know anything. You watch a trailer. I don't even think the trailer tells you really anything about what that movie's about. Maybe on Amazon Prime, and hopefully this one comes out on Amazon Prime as well. Special actors is pretty much covering a young guy. He wants to be an actor, but the problem is that he faints every single time he gets into pressure. So he ends up finding a spot called Special Actors where they act, just not for movies, but for real life events.
Oh, I dig that.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I like that.
It is fantastic.
I'm hoping this isn't some kind of like crisis actors thing.
Well, and I know that it's in the trailer as well, but one of like the big things that they need to do is that there is a cult that is trying to take advantage of a girl, so they need to go in and figure out that the cult, they need to pretend to be cult members to oust the cult before the cult takes over this girl's place. So that's the premise that's in the trailer. But there's a bunch of other little things that happen. He already won me over with One Cut of the Dead. So this is just fantastic to see another hit come out. My favorite other.
And it's cool because you also see this through line of like inverting the language of cinema through his stories, which I mean, I guess I have to go watch these movies now.
Yeah, they're he makes really fun movies that are very like, they're never boring. There's always something happening, and they're just very energetic. That's the one thing that he has. Like you're watching this and you're like, oh, is this like it feels grungy, like a student film. Oh, is this just like an amateur project? No, it's not. But it feels also like an amateur project. So it's like it feels professional while at the same time he's playing on how unprofessional. I don't want to call it unprofessional. It's like, yo, this is a dude who just got his friends together to make a movie. Right. No, it's not. This is a feature film, and it's that very through line that like he is really making the stuff that he wants to make. And I find it absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see what happens when they start giving this man an even bigger budget, even bigger releases. I love Fantasia, and that's also where they had one cut of the dead. Fantasia is fantastic. That once his movies start making, the TIFF splashes and stuff like that, because we know how these festivals go as well. Once he starts, they get his movies to premiere there. That means that my man has made it. He's already made it in my eyes, but his future is going to be crazy. So
people need actors to catch on.
They need to catch on this man. Yeah, for sure. What about you guys? Your number ones?
Like I said, I'm kind of cheating because
Sundance?
I have two because I saw one at Sundance, but I've got two. So the Oak Room and Dinner in America are kind of the two I enjoyed the most. But I think Oak Room is more recommendable to a larger audience. So we'll talk Oak Room first because I know it was on your list. I just had such a great time with that movie. It's basically, this guy's about to close down a bar, and then RJ Mitty's character walks in. And, he's somebody who used to live in the town but kind of left. You get the impression that he owes people some money. His dad died and he didn't come back for the funeral. So it's kind of setting the tone. But he's all like, no, I've got a story for you. I've got a really good story for you. And it's just the way they tell the narrative of that story is so fun because it hits a point and it's like, no, I didn't tell you the other part. And it just kind of keeps winding and winding. And, there's moments that go a little bit, a little messy at times, but overall I just had such a great time with it. And it's all about this Canadian small town in the dead of winter and how easy it is to you miss your turn off because it's so dark at night, and how that can cause huge misconceptions and misunderstandings. And it literally winds down right down to the wire with it.
And that's a movie that's also very good at kind of giving you a little bit of information and then letting you linger on that unanswered question. And just the way that it keeps peppering in these questions. It's like, well, who's Scully or whatever.
And then visual imagery too. It'll show you something, and then you'll have to look and be like, no, that's similar, but that's not what we saw. So then you went to the hits. You're like, that's what we saw earlier. So it's little things like that, but everything is literally just happening in these bars. In fact, the movie was actually shot. They just basically reworked around the same set. It's the same set for both. They just
it's the same bar?
Same bar. They just reworked everything around. The whole thing's
that's
a
good.
set. Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So everything's so I just thought that was really, really interesting. I had a really good time with it. And then
awesome.
I guess I'll cheat and I'll talk about Dinner in America. Now I will say, okay.
Hey, I'll talk about it with you because I caught it.
Okay.
I know you've been hyping this up for the longest time. I know exactly why you love it.
Yeah. See, I hyped it up, but I was also I love it, and I'm sure other people might not like it as much as me. Every once in a while I get really excited about things and other people don't like it, but this time I was like, The first 20 minutes of this are rough. I will say it is a rough start to this movie. It's a very rough.
It starts on a pretty cynical note.
I'm so glad you're saying that. I was like, what the heck was this woman seeing in this movie?
I know. I'm sorry. It starts rough. It's basically the whole thing is this. There's this guy, and he's just trying to get money, and he's doing one of these medical testing things, and he's allergic to the drug. So it basically just starts with him puking all over everything, and then he's just this really rowdy traditional punk. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He runs into this girl who is just so friggin' awkward. If you told me she was a 14-year-old girl, I'd believe you, but she's
12.
But yeah, exactly. She looks like a kid, but she's actually 20. But she's just so stunted, and she has these emotional issues that go along with it. But you kind of find out that she's super obsessed with this band. And it's punk music, so it's so weird because she's wearing all these crazy colorful little kitty sweaters and stuff, so you wouldn't expect it. But then at night she's just rocking out to this super purely aggressive punk rock music, and then two of them kind of build this relationship where she kind of makes him a little bit more grounded, and he kind of helps her break out of her shell more and makes it so that you don't take that kind of shit from anybody. And it's just it's a really sweet story by the end of it for how aggressive it is. It's also just very cute. It gets crazy. It's very aggressive. It's loud at times. It's characters do things that are very cringeworthy, but I knew people that were like that. I don't necessarily want to be that type of person, but it ends up being so very cute at the same time. So yeah, big fan. I like that punk lifestyle.
Yeah, it's got a really sweet kind of love story at its center, despite kind of the rough edges of it. And Caitlin was also just sort of enamored by the punk aspects of it. And I think also there's a couple scenes towards the end that are just very good scenes, just in their own the songwriting scene, and I really love what they do with the concert. There's a lighting moment in the concert that kind of, I think many people can recognize that feeling that they're going for. So there's really great moments in this movie. Very, very cute story.
I liked it a lot. Again, rough start. So if you're watching it and you're like 20 minutes in,
but
and
it's
you're
punk.
It is. It's punk as hell.
It's punk, though. By
Just
the end
keep
of it,
going.
it delivers punk. I was like, all right, they stuck to what they were supposed to be.
Absolutely, they did. Yeah. So
and they're a cute couple because they push each other.
They do.
A lot of times, it's like the beginning, it sounds like they're going to be degrading each other, but at the end of it, all you need in a couple is not that they look the same. It's not that, oh, look, they dress the same. It's the fact that they are pushing each other, like you said, to be a better version of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're a fan of like SLC punk, you'll probably like this too. Yeah.
Totally. My number one is Detention.
I like Detention.
It's a horror set in Taiwan in 1962, mostly set at this one school where kids are marching in uniform and reciting national anthems
it's during the White Terror. It's during the White
Yes, it's during the White
martial law.
So it's a crackdown on dissenters to the communist governments, and it's martial law. So there's a paranoia and a real actual terror from all of the all the prosecution of people and cracking down on thought and banning of books going on. And what the movie does that's really clever is they take all of that anxiety around this oppressive regime and they literalize it in a way by making it into this monster movie, into this story of these like haunted corridors in this school where these painful memories and images lurk, and how for these two students they need to escape this type of terror in order to move on from it, in order to go to live the rest of their lives. There's some like cheesy CGI going on in here that might not work for everybody, but I think just as a metaphor, it's very effective, and particularly through the way it's shot. There's really striking cinematography stuff where they'll like put a noose in the center of a frame and a person just like small enough that she fits within the noose.
For sure.
It's very, very strikingly shot. Again, sort of like we were talking about with the Charlie Kaufman movie, it's one of those movies where like a character will turn to the right and be in a different room, and the way they kind of match cut some of those sequences is really well done. So I was pretty pleasantly surprised by this one, aesthetically and with its story. I think it ends in a really beautiful way where the last little coda of the movie, it's not horror at all, and it works just kind of as drama. I think that's what I really resonated with, is that I think I would have liked this film had it just been a drama, but that they add all these genre elements on top of it makes it that much more interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like I mentioned earlier, it's based off of a video game. Like this is like a video game that's kind of has like the same vibe.
Look at that, Zach.
It's
your favorite video game adaptation. Look at that.
There you go. This was like a really good.
I always knew you were into those movies.
I have a new answer to that question.
This was a good festival for like adaptations of things for live action that normally just don't work. Like there was some solid like anime adaptations, like the solid video game adaptation, and they really worked. And that story was really beautiful. There is an aspect of the story that I'm not like a huge fan of, and it made it hard to like, I liked a character, but at the same time I was all like, but you're also like a bad guy because of that. But like other than that, it's really good.
Yeah, they play with some of the sort of like complicated nature of like trying to navigate your life really in that kind of society. Absolutely. So there's some questionable characteristics from some of the people involved, but it's a really interesting story, and I think very well filmed. Any others we didn't mention that we should, or are we set to move on?
Let's see. Any other really quick ones? I saw Yummy. I don't know if you guys heard about that one. Pretty much a guy takes his soon-to-be fiance to go get a breast reduction, and more things get reduced when zombies come out of this hospital. Free Country was pretty good. It was a dark little thriller about, I think, somewhere in Germany that happens right after like the Gestapos and everything, because they become a free country. They become a democracy. So now you got a murder mystery that's happening with cops who are not used to being cops the way they're supposed to be cops. Cool. So they still want to use the old ways while the new cops are trying to it's a really interesting tale as all these like girls go missing, but it is very dark, but I think has a pretty strong ending going with it. And that's all I saw. I
have one that I'm so conflicted on because like thematically I was really into what it was going for, but then I guess what the movie wanted to be was kind of where I started getting an issue with it. PVT Chat. that has Julia
hated the
Fox.
ending.
I was curious about that one.
You hated the ending.
I hated the ending. So it's another one, very explicit. Like, if you don't like nudie nudes, don't watch this movie. But it's like kind of, maybe it's because of like the reality that I live with weird people on the internet. So that like when it got to the end, I was like, no, we are not encouraging this behavior at all. But it really is supposed to be more like how people establish connections and relationships in like a digital age, and how it, you know, how people, how much you can lie about yourself, and how much you can try to like build yourself up to these people that like arguably you could never meet, but then like what happens when you do. So it's definitely, it's so weird. It's worth the watch, but I just don't like the ending, even though I get why the ending was the way it was. But I'm just kind of like, I don't want to encourage this at all.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, a movie that you maybe thought was better than your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, I think, like I appreciate what it was going for.
Right.
But, you know, this is like a guy that, you know, he's talking to girls on a campsite, and then he like sees one in real life. And it's like, you know, I was expecting it to go in a very different direction that it ended up going in by the end. By the end, I was all like, no, stop.
So it's like Joker. Kind of like...
Yeah.
There was another one at TIFF that played that year. I forgot what it was, about a psychologist. And it starred
the
oh
my God.
Witch.
Yeah.
From
oh my God.
Game of Thrones. And that was another one where, everything that it covers, it makes sense. I hate the ending.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Not that I hate the ending.
Called.
I hate the ending.
Yeah, I know exactly
it played
what
at
you're
TIFF,
talking
and it
about.
was about a psychologist who helps like a rapist.
Yeah. It was hard. That was
because when I read your review, I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. It's like it does it right, but it still ends in an ending where it's like,
I don't like it.
Movies are supposed to be representative of what we want society to be.
Exactly, and I don't want this.
But at the same time, hey, I mean, it's being honest. I guess I haven't seen
PVT
PVT chat yet, but for Miss Julia and her acting talents, I figured that I will go support her after
of course, definitely her acting talents. She does a lot of acting. No, it's good. It's good. I just, that's the other thing. People are going to watch this for the wrong reasons. People are like they're going to hear about it, and they're going to be like, and they're not going to get that layer of message. And then those are the people that scare me.
Well, it's the thing is, I watch Fight Club because I want to be like Tyler, right?
Right. Bad fans.
Yeah, bad fans.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for our wrap up of Fantasia Fest. Those are some of the best movies that were playing there. But if you caught anything, let us know. And remember to reach out to us on social media. We are at Intercut Pod. Just social media, not real life. But let us know what you thought. We are going to get to our last segment. It's the new to see, where we give you our picks for the week. Art, what are you recommending the people go out there and watch?
You have the entire Twilight franchise over on Hulu.com. That is Hulu.com.
Netflix in Canada.
They got all of those over there.
Amazon Prime.
No, I'm gonna give a VOD one, and a streaming one. On streaming, if you have Netflix, I don't think there's anything bigger than I Am Not Okay With This. Sorry, I'm Not Okay With This. All of these depressing titles, you know, I'm Not Okay With This. I'm thinking of ending things.
I May Destroy You.
Yeah.
You have to put...
I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
You have to put a 2020 or the movie thing, because if you upload a video like this, we're going to be like, you okay?
You okay?
If they don't know about it. If anything, now that it's on Netflix, I don't know if any of the other Kaufman films are on there, but give this one a try. And even if it's not for you, is there any other ones that are streaming? Hopefully,
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is on Netflix in the U.S. at least.
At that point, I'd be happy for you to just go find some other Kaufman stuff to see which one's bound to just hit you in the cerebral, like just subliminally. You're not even gonna know.
I don't know if I would start your Kaufman journey with I'm thinking of ending.
I would go with Eternal if I had to pick one that. Yeah.
Start with Synecdoche, New York.
Obviously.
But yeah, no, definitely that one. Just a Kaufman binge weekend if you can on any of the ones that are streaming. And then
I'm always down for that.
I'm personally excited to rent on VOD Feels Good Man, because I've heard great things. I know even YMS had the director make a little trailer for him.
Yeah.
Trying to convince him to boost it up from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. And I was like, yo, be happy that man gave you an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, he's a hard critic.
I wouldn't be risking it in any other way, shape, or form. But I've heard good things since Sundance. Now that it's out of Fantasia, your recommendations on it, that's going to be the one that I'm catching this weekend. At home, with my allergies. What do you guys recommend?
Haven't watched it, but I'm going with I'm thinking of ending things, because that's what I'm going to be watching this weekend. That's what I'm going to be spending my time watching. I think that's probably going to have to do it for me, because I don't think anything else I just can't recommend in good conscience. Not that I would anyways, because they weren't that great.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going for the triple on. I'm thinking of ending things. Like, even if I'm not so sure what I think about that movie, I want to keep thinking about that movie and talking about it with people. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Also, as Art said, feels good, man. Now that that's on demand, I ended up enjoying that, and I think it's going to be useful for some people. Also, Class Action Park, the other documentary that I enjoyed out of Fantasia Fest on HBO Max right now. But also on HBO Max is another movie that I watched earlier this week. It's Get On Up, the James Brown biopic from director Tate Taylor that, of course, starred Chadwick Boseman in what I would at least say was the late actor's most dominant on-screen performance. It's just such a transformation, even though he's only doing lip syncing in that. Just it's a full body performance, and the way he's able to bring on a whole new voice, something that he's done in across many of his roles. It's so stunning here. You know, when I saw the news of his passing, that's the film that I wanted to watch most, just because it shows you the immense charisma that he had, and just the really high potential that he still had, that, you know, gives you an idea of the kind of work that we are ultimately robbed of, because he unfortunately passed away recently. And, you know, if you can stand it, it's sad to watch what a powerhouse he was. But for me, that's just the best testament to his legacy, to get to go back and revisit some of those roles.
Absolutely.
He would have been the best. And he was just starting producing as well. But as everyone has said, I don't think there's anything else to add. When such a big figure has passed, everyone has covered it already. So we're just really repeating just his highest moments, is the biggest praise you can give him of filming all of these projects and leaving a legacy behind that was insane. You know, to do all that stuff. I think it was a little interview with one of the members from the Five Bloods, who was saying that he thought he was so, you know, not full of himself, but look, he's always got these
Clark
people
Peters,
coming in to help him, and then he realizes they weren't coming in to like pamper him and give him massages. They were trying to minimize his pain. They were just trying to help him, you know, however long they still had with him. I don't know. I think it's incredible. Legend.
Just
with everything
Legend
that
through.
even just kind of going back and talking about like the John Boyega thing, just like the stark difference there of like how he could have impacted the Star Wars universe the same way that, you know, Black Panther did for the Marvel universe, and just on such a higher level in terms of you know, representation and actually showing the so many dynamic layers of a culture that was just so often not seen in any other ways, and especially not in that kind of movie to have made that kind of money, and how much that role alone means to people. Like, even if that's not your favorite performance, even if that's not your favorite movie, it's just the impact of that movie in general is, you cannot understate it, or you can't overstate it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Black Panther, The Five Bloods, both are streaming on Disney Plus or Netflix, so lots of ways to catch up with the films that he did leave behind.
Bro, and on Jackie Robinson Day?
Right. 42 is on Amazon Prime, I believe, also. Just very, very sad, very depressing. It, you know, there's no words that can really fully encompass it, but it's just a shame. It's such a shame, because as we've been saying, he has left behind such a legacy in a relatively short period of time. It's only like 4 years ago that most of these roles we're mentioning were conceived or cast. So, and
it's not just the movies; it's how he lived his life.
True.
That's why
we're all
so
looking
shocking.
back, not looking at the holes. What's so shocking? It's like you were living it like there was nothing even going on. That to me is the biggest thing he leaves behind. Is like, live your life like this.
Absolutely.
To the fullest.
And I really loved what Ryan Coogler wrote after his death. So if you haven't read that, we'll make sure to leave a link to that below. But that's about all for this week's show. Catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's ZSHEV. V is in Vivarium, ICH. And check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show. Amanda, where can people catch more from you?
People can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, anywhere at all at Amanda the Jedi.
You can find me at LME Explained, the A to Z show, drowning out my sorrows and, I don't know, allergy medicine. I don't know what I have, Sudafed or whatever I have around me. Or you can find me every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed, not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Friday. And please leave us a comment, like the video, and consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to our listeners in Kuwait, of all places, who put us on the TV and film podcast charts out there. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from Amanda, from Art, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, as long as we're alive, there are many things to look forward to.